The Englund Gambit begins with the moves d4, e5. It's a gambit for black, who tries to unleash this on the typical white d4 player. And if white is unprepared, they can get into some very serious trouble. So for that reason, I'm here to show you a simple way to get out of it. Let's take a look. As mentioned, there's a lot of tricks and traps in the Englund Gambit. For that reason, it's very popular at the club level, but this simple way out will guarantee you have a good position every single time. We're just going to show a few of these tricks and traps for educational purposes, but you will avoid every single one. So after d takes e5, the only way to refute a gambit is to accept it. Black continues with the move knight c6. And the point of this move is to try and recapture the pawn in good fashion. So we're going to do our best to hold on to it just once until they play the move queen e7. This is where all the tricks and traps begin. The most commonly played move here, and the best according to the engine, is bishop f4. But we are going to avoid this move because it enters all the tricky trappy lines, which I'm going to demonstrate now. So after queen to b4, there's only one move here, which stays with the advantage, and that's bishop d2, which also carries a lot of complications. For example, one common trap is bishop d2, queen takes b2, bishop c3 to save the rook and attack the queen, but now bishop b4 is very problematic. The reason why is because the most logical queen d2 runs into bishop takes bishop. If we take with the knight, we lose the rook, so we have to take back the queen, but now we actually surprisingly get checkmated with queen c1. So this is an example of one such poisonous variation where your most logical moves lead to just losing the game very soon. So that would be bishop to d2. The other seemingly logical move in order to protect against the check and save your bishop, instead of bishop d2, is queen d2, protecting this. But this actually loses the game immediately due to queen takes b2, attacking the rook. The only way to save the rook is queen c3, but now bishop to b4 comes, and we lose our queen due to the pin. For that reason, bishop f4 here is a very tricky move. Objectively, it's the best move, but it requires some long memorization of very dense lines. So for that reason, avoiding this whole queen b4 where our bishop is undefended, check, b2 pawn hangs, we're going to avoid all of that. And we're just going to play the nice, simple move knight c3. This allows us to give the pawn back on our terms. So that's one of the main benefits of playing against the gambit. You're temporarily up a pawn, which means that you give it back any way you please. So here, we're going to give back the pawn, and we're just going to play the move e4, a nice logical central thrust, and we're just going to ask black, hey, why is your queen on e7, blocking up your f8 bishop? If they take here, we just take back the queen, no problem. All of our development is just extremely logical, and we're in the castle, but black has some serious issues to solve. So for that reason, we have a nice, calm, and stable advantage. One very important tip about learning openings in general in chess is that you don't follow the engine blindly. So use it more as a guideline than absolute truth, because the engine tells you nothing about playability of a position, which for us humans is very, very important. So here, the move bishop f4, which enters all that dense theory and all those tricky lines, is actually plus 1.2 according to the engine, whereas knight c3 is plus 1. So some players might interpret that as, oh, I should play bishop f4, but actually playability stands in the court of knight c3. So for that reason, this is the line that I'm recommending to all of my students, and I'm going to back that up with some numbers for you. Currently, I'm on LionChess, so I'm going to use their opening explorer tool here to give you some numbers. After bishop f4, the most commonly played move here by far, there has been 4 million games almost in the database, and out of those, 40% white wins, 3% are a draw, and 57 black wins. 57% of all games. Whereas, after knight c3, if I play a few more moves here, so our line was e4. And after this, let's take a look. After e4, there have been 400,000 games, nearly, and 59% of those white wins. Again, 3% draw and 38% black wins. So just to give you actual numbers of chess games that have been played in the LionChess database, we can see a drastic change in win rate because this position is just much more playable. Hopefully all of that made sense. Now I want to do a quick recap of the entire variation itself, and then talk a little bit about the middle game of how you want to think about it, how you want to approach it. Let's take a look. So from the start, d4, e5. We're going to take this one, knight c6 attacks it, and we're just going to hold on to it once to force them to play queen e7. And once they play this bad move, now we just go back to normal, give the pawn back, knight c3. They take, and we go e4. And from here, two things may happen. Either they go c6, or they try knight takes f3 to try and make their strategy work. So let's say they go c6 to try and stop us from going knight d5. That's how they try to keep the queen here. Otherwise, we just gain a free tempo and attack. So after e4, c6. But this unfortunately weakens the d6 square. So that's going to be a problem for black in the long run. Let me show you why. So for example, let's just say both sides develop. Let's say bishop e3, they play knight f6, we just stop any knight g4 stuff, d6, and now let's say queen d2 long castle, makes a lot of sense. They already have some troubles developing the bishop with, for example, g6, bishop g7, because we will have immediate pressure here. For example, g6, long castle, they cannot go bishop g7 because we would just take a free pawn here. So that's one idea. We use the d6 weakened square because they had to play c6 on the count of their queen being here. Hopefully you're enjoying the video so far. If you have any questions up until now, feel free to drop a comment down below and stick around to the end of the video for a special surprise. Some of your other opponents may try knight takes f3, but we just take this with the queen, of course, not to spoil our pawn structure. So from here, again, develop at top speed, castle long so that your rook is immediately in the battle, bring the other rook in and try to go e5 and just blast open the position while your opponent is still busy trying to develop. This should just grant you either a win itself or a monstrous advantage. And if they play c6, then the d6 square may be weak. If they don't play c6, then you have knight d5 as another attack, after developing, of course. And don't make this one mistake. Keep an eye out for tactics, of course, at every single move. After knight f6, bishop e3, d6, you cannot castle because of bishop g4, so just make sure to play an h3. That's like the only thing black could do here. Combining knight f6 with the bishop being open to perhaps harass your queen. So just when they open up these two, play h3, you're safe. A small bonus for staying until the end. Here's a bonus variation which may win you some games. This is how 3,185 people got checkmated. So in this position, after knight f3, queen takes, they played knight f6, obviously. And now we have this bishop g5 pin, which is actually putting a lot of pressure on our opponent because we're threatening knight d5. And one of the most commonly played moves here, the most commonly played move is h6, which completely blunders knight d5. And then black sees, oh, wait, I could just take this pawn for free. And if they do, they get checkmated. Queen takes, knight takes, and knight takes c7. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Now it's time to crush those Englund Gambit players. Also, as said before, I'm ready to reveal the surprise that I have for you. The surprise is a giveaway that I'll be doing until the end of this year, until the end of this month, because it's December. And it's going to be a giveaway of a shirt and a mug from my merch store. You don't necessarily have to get this design. There's a lot of cool and funny designs related to chess. So you get to choose which design you would like, and I will send you one shirt and one mug of your choosing. I will post the results of the giveaway by commenting down below and pinning my own comment on the 5th of January. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe on my channel to see more stuff like this. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like down below if you did, and I'll talk to you very soon. Take it easy.